We're talking about second chances today. We're talking about second chance employment for people who've had interaction with the criminal justice system. And one of the partnerships that Bloomberg has is with the Fortune Society, and JoAnne Page is with Fortune. JoAnne, let's start with you and tell us about that. What was the genesis of this?
Well, let me start with a little bit of context. And it's important that there are two panels about criminal justice in a conference about equality. Because if you care about issues of racism, if you care about issues of opportunity deserts in our poorest parts of the city, if you care about the second punishment that Jason Flom was talking about, you need to care about what happens to people in the criminal justice system. So we actually have been working with Bloomberg since 2004. But what has just happened a year ago is a program that we've put together that we call the Bloomberg Fellows Program, where we are taking people who come through the Fortune Society's employment program, and they are, in effect, adopted by people at Bloomberg, where we have a manager and we have one of the most senior people at Bloomberg mentoring them. And some of the people who greeted you as you came in were people who have gone from incarceration, unemployment, enormous stigma, to being valued members of this business. And we think that's a role model.
Kevin, you and Butter and Scotch, you've taken the lead in this. What was the impetus for you to do this, to give people a second chance, to say we should be proactive and do this?
I mean, I think it was just built into our business model when we first started. You know, Allison and I, being women, were already sort of, struggling in the business community, especially in the bar community. We have a bar and a bakery. And so we really built that in, whereas we want to give people a second chance. We want to give people jobs who are disenfranchised, And so we, have always sort of had that in our hearts. And thankfully, there are places like the Fortune Society that make it very easy for businesses
I
like
would
us.
suggest that it's a noble endeavor, but I'm sure there might be some skeptics out there. How do you convince some people who say that sounds nice, but it's not just for me?
To hire people who have been incarcerated previously.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I've always had the mindset that, well, first of all, our criminal justice system is broken a bit, and so that's always sort of been in my brain. And also, I very much believe in giving people second chances, always. And so I think that's just built in. But, as a business owner, it's our job to teach people. It's not our job to sort of just shuffle people around and say, like, okay, you're doing this now, you're doing that. It's teaching, it's giving people opportunity to grow, it's listening to them. So I think just as a business owner, you sort of have that responsibility.
Christina, tell us about your second chance.
Well, I was fortunate enough to work with Miss JoAnne Page, and Kevin happens to be my boss. I work at the bakery, and I'm also a participant at the Fortune Society. And I myself was directly impacted by the justice system when I was 17 years old, but I was able to come home and find a safe haven with the Fortune Society, and I was fortunate enough to find a job with Kevin. And just to say, when I was hired by Butter and Scotch, it wasn't about the case. They saw my face. They focused more on my hard skills and my soft skills and what I was able to do for them at the bakery, how I can benefit from them, and they can benefit from me as well. And it was a great learning experience for me. But as far as the Fortune Society, it definitely is a safe haven for people like me that's been involved with the justice system. And, they have great resources. It was there that I was able to find a career advisor. I found a career advisor. They help with incentives like Metro cards and people that come from impoverished communities, because I can say I did not have it that easy, but, I'm working on myself as a young woman, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity that they both have given me.
Oh, let me just say something, though. First,
Thank you. Thank you.
There is a motherload of talent behind bars. We have spent massive dollars.
Is that one of the collateral consequences of incarceration? People don't see that talent?
You've got people pulled out of the workforce, having gaps in their resume. For many people, it's the first chance. And the level of talent we see coming through our doors is phenomenal. More than half our staff are formerly incarcerated out of selfishness reasons because we get such talented people. And what we want employers to do is look at the human being, not do what Mr. Flom said, where you do the second punishment over and over and over and over again.
Do they
But
lose
look at
sight of the
talent.
fact that with the incarceration, there's supposed to be a rehabilitative component as opposed to just punitive?
Our country never figured that one out. We are really wonderful at punishment, and we punish for a lifetime. And then when you throw the factor of race in, there was a study done by a woman named Diva Pager where she found that white applicants with a record got better callback rates than black applicants without one. So if you take race, you take class, and you take discrimination, and you stir them all together, you get a toxic brew that keeps people out of the workforce in ways that I think are criminal.
Kevin, how would you
Absolutely.
alleviate any concerns that potential employers might have? What would you tell them?
I mean, I think, well, you can always go this route. I believe that, you're probably going to want to prove yourself. If you've been previously incarcerated, you're going to want to prove yourself. You're not just sort of waltzing in with never having a job before. You're out there to really prove your skills. And so you've got that going. But yeah, it is really terrible. At 17, I don't even know why Christina ended up involved with our justice system. We haven't even talked about it. But at 17, I know that I did a lot of really bad things, but the fact that I'm white has probably, definitely put me in a place where I did not end up involved. So I think it's just so important. Like you said, creativity is in there. I probably should have been involved with our justice system, let's be real, at 17. But I wasn't because I'm very lucky.
So when you are presented
it is important.
when you're presented with somebody with talent, with talent that maybe has taken a sidetrack, but right now that talent is ready to come back to the fore, what do you tell a woman of color who comes to you and says, I can do this?
I say, that's fantastic. What do you like doing? How can I help prop you up as a business owner? I very much believe that business owners should be cheerleaders for their employees. They should figure out, what does Christina do really well? Let's push that forward. How do you think differently than me? Let's work with that, because that's how creativity comes about. That's how innovation comes about, instead of just taking the same people over and over and propping them up because they're what we're used to,
Christina,
seeing.
we were talking backstage. I'd like to know how you got over your fears, how you got over your apprehension about, can I go out there, can I convince somebody that I'm hireable, can I convince somebody that I'm the type of employee that they need?
Well, luckily, I was able to get an equal opportunity. You may not always get an equal outcome when you reach out to people that were previously impacted by the justice system, but it's all about equal opportunity. It's all about a second chance, because if you're not able to give somebody a second chance, you never know what can happen. And I'm not sure how the statistics are, but I'm pretty sure it's a high rate of jail becoming a revolving door for people that were formerly incarcerated, because they honestly end up falling back into old bad habits that they probably were doing. But
she segues into rates of recidivism. What do you know?
Well, what we know is that something like 2/3 of the people nationwide who get released from prison get locked up again in 3 years. And when I look at the level of obstacles that people face, I'm shocked that the recidivism rate is that low.
Is this because of chances not given?
A lot of it is about what we call technical violations, where people are on parole or probation, and they are breaking a curfew rule or they smoke a joint, things that if they were not under scrutiny would not result in being locked up. Some of it also is that half the people coming out of state prison right now are dumped in the homeless shelters in New York City, in the 3 worst shelters in the city that are rife with violence and rife with drugs. I'm shocked that people have the courage to make it through that, and that so many people make it through.
I want to pause for a second because I know you all have some clickers on, and we have a question. If you could grab your clickers, we want to take a quick poll. And the question is, do you know someone who's been involved with the criminal justice system? 1 for yes, someone I'm close to. 2 for yes, but not someone I'm close to. 3 for no, not that I know of. And 4 is yes, me. And if you could cast your clicks now. Wow. JoAnne, you see that number. What does that tell you?
Well, you know, if you'd asked a broader question about people who have loved ones with addiction history or
Sure.
mental health history, it would be every single person in this room. So we are touched by the criminal justice system, or we benefit from having our loved ones be privileged enough that they don't get sucked in.
At this point, are you seeing a shift in societal norms about how we treat people and how we give them a second chance?
I am. What I'm seeing is that when we go to legislators now that white folk are showing up with heroin addiction, there's an interest in treatment instead of throwing people away.
Of course.
And I'd like to say one more thing. If you're an employer and you care about diversity, if you tap the talent stream that we have thrown away by locking people up, you'll accomplish 2 things. One is you're giving people a fighting chance at a life that will impact their families and their communities. And the other is you're going to end up hiring more people of color and more men of color and talented, hungry, eager, hardworking people. Everybody benefits when the doors are open.
What do you tell other business owners who may say, hey, I hear that you're involved with this? Do you have a hard time convincing them that this is it's a good thing economically, it's a good thing for the community, it's a good thing?
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I don't get a lot of pushback from it. We're in Brooklyn, and it's a very progressive area. And so a lot of other business, I actually learned of Fortune Society because I'm involved with this group of women entrepreneurs. And most of the companies have heard of it or were thinking about using it or already do use Fortune Society. And so, I don't have much pushback, which is great, I think.
Christina, we have to ask you how your life's now.
My life is honestly great right now. I can honestly say that as a young woman of color and having been through what I've been through, I'm living my best life. I'm currently employed. Thank you. So just a little bit. I'm currently employed by Butter Scotch part-time now. And I'm also doing an internship with the Fortune Society, looking to obtain my KSAT. I look forward to in the future, also enrolling in school for their August semester, I believe. And I just look forward to helping people that are, I found my voice. And I'm able to speak on it today and share with you guys. And for those that don't have the courage, or not even so much in not having the courage, but just not ready and that need to be heard, I would like to speak out for them as far as mental health, substance abuse, alcoholism, and I just want to give back to my community. And like I said, I'm living my best life, and I'm going to keep moving forward.
When I was getting ready for the panel, I kept coming back to one of my favorite speeches. The day after Dr. King was killed, Bobby Kennedy gave a speech in Cleveland. He was talking about violence in America, and he talked about the violence of institutions, not necessarily bullets or bombs, but the violence institutions do. And I'm thinking about the way people are warehoused and not given a second chance. He said, too often we honor swagger and bluster in the wielders of force. Too often we excuse those whose lives are built on the shattered dreams of others. How do you convince people that people's dreams, they don't stop when they get out of the criminal justice system? They're just starting another chapter of their life, and you're there to help them write that chapter.
Part of our job is to look at people, look in their eyes, see the beauty and the potential in them when they don't see it yet themselves. And what we ask employers to do is just start with a level playing field. Look at the person in front of you, look at the talent, look at the skill, look at the energy, and give them a fighting chance. And treat them like any other employee, as opposed to shutting the door before they ever get looked at.
What are businesses telling you? Have any of them just said, I'm just not doing this?
We have seen a lot of people shut doors, and we call it blanket discrimination.
What are they afraid of?
I think afraid of the unknown, There also is, most of the folks coming out of prison are men of color. 70% of those locked up are people of color. I think a lot of it is simply fear. Fear and the unknown and fear and prejudice and all of that. And they're turning away some of the people who would be the best employees they could possibly have. And they're dooming people to no door out, which is a tragedy.
Kevin?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Owning a business, I fully trust Christina is not going to sort of like steal money or steal our booze or stay late and party. But guess who does? Everyone else who works at our place. I think I trust her more than anyone else. And again, there's something to prove it, and it's based on the person. You know, you have to look at the person. How did you get past
your initial apprehension?
I never had any apprehension. Really? No. But of course, I am the type of person. It was built into our business plan. I have given people too many second chances before. I've sort of been burnt by that. So I think it's just very much ingrained in me. And I look at the person, and I know that everyone goes through something in their past. We've all been through hardships, and I believe that most people are good people. The world just happens to them,
I want to give Christina the last 30 seconds here because we have to wrap this up. What do you tell people who hear your story and still might be a little skeptical about hiring somebody who's been through the system?
Me personally, I just always stick to my little motto, which is see the face and not the case, because I can look at you and never know what you've been through in life. We've all been through something, maybe not as drastic as others, but you have to have an open mind and an open heart and just believe in a second chance. We all deserve one.